every piece of information that we get, as we got it, we laid it out for the American people. And the picture, you know, eventually gets fully filled in, and we know exactly what happens.
President Obama last night on The Daily Show saying every piece as it came out in the Libya investigation the administration has laid out. Today, a lot of pieces were laid out. More than 166 pages of State Department cables came out from this investigation from the House Oversight Committee. Among them, some cables written by Ambassador Chris Stevens, the late Ambassador Chris Stevens. Let's start back June. This is a few months before his death, writing that Islamic extremism appears to be on the rise in eastern Libya. The al-Qaeda flag has been spotted several times flying over government buildings and training facilities. The government of Libya, until they're able to effectively deal with these key issues, the violence is likely to continue and worsen. August 8th, the month before his death, Benghazi has moved from trepidation to euphoria and back as a series of violent incidents has dominated the political landscape. The individual incidents have been organized. Islamic extremists are able to attack the Red Cross with relative impunity. What we have seen are not random crimes of opportunity, but rather targeted and discriminated attacks. Attackers are unlikely to be deterred until authorities are at least as capable. And then, on September 11th, just hours before he's murdered, he writes that there are growing problems with security, there's growing frustration with the Libyan security forces, that they are unable to keep the country secure, that they're too weak to keep Libya secure. Again, he would be murdered just...
It directly refutes the president's claim, again on a comedy show, that whenever they got any piece of information, they laid it out for the American people. Well, you think of Susan Rice, the Sunday after the attack. We now know that the administration had gotten reports from the station chief in Libya saying it was a terror attack, it was a pre-planned attack, and she actually says she not only isn't sharing any of that, she's actually contradicting it, and she says there's no evidence that this was a pre-planned attack. So, I mean, at every level, and you think back to what the president said in the second debate, that he was offended that the governor would imply and suggest that anybody in his administration had misled the country on Libya. The misleading is at so many levels, there's so many contradictions, there's so many hiding of information and covering of information that it's almost innumerable. I mean, I think Romney's got a tremendous opening on Monday to simply lay out, and I'm sure he can learn from watching the special at 10, the number of statements that were misleading is really staggering. And for them to proclaim they laid out all the information and they're offended by the implication that somehow they misled. The president himself was saying on Letterman a week after the attack that it had to do with the video. At a time when everybody knew it had nothing to do with the video. And there's one other aspect. You know when that report is going to be completed?
November 7th?
November 15th, the middle of the month. So it is obvious that this is simply an attempt. You simply say there's an inquiry happening, so we can't speak about it, and that insulates them. But it's not going to work at this time because even the mainstream media, and I mean even, now can't hide from this issue.
I want to get to this other part of this story quickly. This Libyan ship gets to Syria. It's carrying cargo that includes weapons. Catherine Herridge had this story tonight. We have the docking documents, some 400 tons of cargo on board, including a large consignment of weapons. Take a listen to this.
So the ship came that way, all the way up to Iskenderuna in Turkey. Now, from the information that is available, there were aid material, but there were also weapons. A lot of weapons.
Do you think we're going to find out that some of these weapons from Libya have made their way into Syria?
Absolutely. I think there's no question that there's a lot of networking going on, and well, of course we know it.
So, I mean, what about this, Charles? I mean, could this just be a funneling effort right into Syria?
Absolutely, and it's a direct result of a policy of leading from behind. You lead from behind, you overthrow a dictator in an unstable area, and what you get is we have zero control or zero influence over anything happening here, which means you get the jihadists escaping into Mali. Half of Mali is now an al-Qaeda state, essentially. You've got al-Qaeda camps all over North Africa, and we now know there are weapons going from Syria, from Libya into Syria, into the hands of the worst jihadists, and Syria is the real strategic prize here. So it's jeopardizing all of our interest in the area. It's what happens when you don't lead. Given Candy Crowley's appalling performance in the debate, you'll notice this is an extremely objective and non-judgmental question. Should the next debate and all debates after that be moderated by Alex Trebek? Give the question, get out of the way. If not, why not? Now, the correct answer is yes, Alex Trebek. Or perhaps, who is Alex Trebek? But the reason is simple. We have 300 hours a year of Sunday talk shows where there's an inquisition of the politician. We have 4.5 hours every 4 years of the candidates for the presidency alone on the stage. Leave them alone. Let them argue and debate and fact-check each other. That's not the role of the moderator. The reason that Romney did not win the debate, the second debate, running away, is that he whiffed on the hanging curveball on Libya. It was just hanging out there and he missed it. But he's very lucky he gets a second chance. I think he has to hammer Obama. Don't rely on the moderator. Hammer Obama on the statement that he was offended that anybody would even imply he misled. You go through a catalog of misleading, and you go after the statement that the president had made, that every piece of information is laid out. It's a question of honesty and leadership. It's not that people care that much about Libya, but they don't like our country humiliated and the leadership lying about it.
By the way, quickly, got a lot of emails that you said President Obama won on points.
He won on points because I call him like I see him. But it was a narrow victory, and the fact that Romney had one high point, his one great answer on the economy, is the reason that the polls showed that on the economy he won in that debate, and that neutralized its effect on the trajectory of the election.
Newsweek going digital. No more print Newsweek. Kind of a big moment.
Well, it died several years ago. Tina Brown had kept it alive through rather skillful sensationalism, but you can't cheat the bottom line. And think of all the trees that will live as a result of this.
But do you think that that's the way it's all going to go?
I think magazines are completely obsolete. There may be a remnant of people who want to have a hard copy newspaper, but they are probably old and dying.
This has been a Sunfish production.